Picture this. You're standing on the deck of a ship, and the ocean around you has turned into a violent, churning beast. Waves as tall as 5-story buildings are slamming into your vessel from every direction. The wind is screaming at over 100 miles per hour, and the temperature has plummeted so low that the spray from the waves freezes instantly on contact. You can't see more than a few feet in front of you through the blinding snow and mist. This isn't some Hollywood disaster movie. This is just another Tuesday for anyone attempting to reach the most remote, hostile, and unforgiving continent on Earth, Antarctica. And today, I'm going to take you through what it's really like to make one of the most dangerous sea voyages on the planet. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we explore the most extreme places and experiences our planet has to offer. Today's video is going to be absolutely wild because we're diving deep into the treacherous journey to Antarctica. We're talking about crossing the Drake Passage, surviving in conditions that have claimed countless lives, and understanding why this journey continues to attract adventurers, scientists, and explorers despite the massive risks involved. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll have a whole new appreciation for just how brutal our planet can be. So grab your warmest blanket because we're heading south, way south. Let me start by setting the scene. Antarctica isn't exactly a place you can just casually visit. There are no commercial flights that land on the continent for tourists, and there are definitely no roads leading there. The only way most people can reach Antarctica is by ship, and that means crossing what sailors have called the most dangerous body of water on Earth, the Drake Passage. This stretch of ocean sits between the southern tip of South America, specifically Cape Horn and the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica. It's about 600 miles of open ocean, but those 600 miles are unlike anything else you'll ever experience. The Drake Passage has earned itself quite the reputation over the centuries. Sailors have nicknamed it the Drake Shake because of the constant, violent motion of the ship as it battles through enormous swells. These aren't your typical ocean waves. We're talking about swells that can reach 40 to 50 feet high during calm conditions. And during storms, they can exceed, or even 70 feet. Imagine being inside a massive metal tube that's being tossed around like a toy in a bathtub. Except this bathtub is freezing cold, the size of multiple football fields, and wants to kill you. So why is the Drake Passage so incredibly dangerous? It all comes down to geography and physics. This is the only place on Earth where the ocean flows completely around the globe without being interrupted by any landmass. The Antarctic circumpolar current flows from west to east, and it's the most powerful ocean current on the planet. It moves more water than all the world's rivers combined, around 150 million cubic meters per second. When you have that much water moving in one direction, with nothing to slow it down or redirect it, combined with the brutal winds that whip around Antarctica, you get some of the most extreme maritime conditions imaginable. The winds in the Drake Passage are relentless. The area sits in what sailors call the Furious 50s and the Screaming 60s, named for the latitude lines and the intensity of the wind. These winds can sustain speeds of 50 to 60 miles per hour for days on end, and during storms, they can gust well over 100 miles per hour. When wind like that hits the surface of massive ocean swells, it creates waves that don't just roll, they crash and explode with terrifying force. Ships get hit by rogue waves, which are massive walls of water that can appear suddenly and slam into a vessel with enough force to cause serious damage or even sink it. Now, let's talk about what it's actually like to be on a ship crossing the Drake Passage. Most journeys take between 48 and 72 hours, depending on the weather conditions and the speed of the vessel. Before you even leave port in Ushuaia, Argentina, the southernmost city in the world, the crew will give you a safety briefing. They'll tell you about securing all loose items in your cabin, staying hydrated, taking seasickness medication, and most importantly, holding on to something at all times when you're moving around the ship. They're not exaggerating. Once you leave the protected waters of the Beagle Channel and enter the open ocean, you can feel the change immediately. The ship starts to pitch and roll in a way that's completely disorienting. Forward and backward, side to side, sometimes all at once. Many people spend their first several hours, or even the entire crossing, feeling violently seasick. Even experienced sailors can find themselves affected by the motion. You'll see passengers lying in their bunks, turning green, unable to eat or drink anything. The ship's dining room often looks half empty because people simply can't stomach the thought of food while the world is spinning around them. But the physical discomfort is only part of the challenge. There's also a psychological element to crossing the Drake. You're completely at the mercy of the ocean and the weather. Modern ships have advanced navigation systems, weather forecasting, and safety equipment. But at the end of the day, when Mother Nature decides to throw her worst at you, all you can do is hold on and ride it out. You're in the middle of one of the most remote stretches of ocean on Earth. If something goes seriously wrong, help is not coming quickly. That knowledge sits in the back of your mind throughout the entire journey. The temperature is another factor that makes this journey so brutal. As you head south, the air temperature drops rapidly. Even in the Antarctic summer, which runs from November to March, temperatures in the Drake Passage hover around freezing or just above. Combination of wind and cold creates a wind chill that cuts right through your clothing. If you venture out on deck, which some people do because the fresh air helps with seasickness, you need to bundle up in multiple layers, and even then, you can only stay outside for short periods before the cold becomes unbearable. And then there's the ice. As you get closer to Antarctica, you start encountering icebergs. These massive chunks of ice that have broken off from Antarctic glaciers float through the Southern Ocean, and they pose a serious navigation hazard. Some icebergs are the size of small buildings. Others are the size of entire cities. Most of an iceberg's mass is below the waterline, which means what you see on the surface is only a fraction of its true size. Ships have to navigate carefully to avoid collisions, especially in conditions where visibility is reduced by fog, snow, or darkness. Speaking of which, let's talk about the wildlife you might encounter if you're lucky enough to have a break in the weather and can spend some time on deck watching the ocean. The Drake Passage is home to some incredible seabirds, including albatrosses. These birds have the largest wingspan of any living bird, sometimes reaching 11 feet from tip to tip. They're masters of the wind, gliding effortlessly alongside the ship without seeming to flap their wings at all. Watching them navigate the same winds that are tossing the ship around like a toy is absolutely mesmerizing. You might also spot petrels, diving birds, that skim the surface of the waves looking for food. If you're extremely fortunate, you might see whales. Humpback whales, fin whales, and even orcas travel through these waters. There's something surreal about seeing a massive whale surface in the middle of such a hostile environment, completely at home in conditions that feel apocalyptic to humans. It reminds you that while this place is deadly for us, it's home to creatures perfectly adapted to thrive here. Now, let's talk about the history of this passage and why it has such a dark reputation. Before the Panama Canal was built in the early 1900s, ships traveling between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans had to go around Cape Horn and through the Drake Passage. This was the age of sail, meaning wooden ships powered by wind, with no engines, no GPS, no weather forecasting, and minimal safety equipment. Thousands of sailors lost their lives attempting this passage. Ships were sunk by storms, smashed against rocks, or simply disappeared without a trace. The sea floor of the Drake Passage is littered with shipwrecks, each one representing a tragedy, and lives lost to the unforgiving ocean. Even in modern times, with all our technology and safety measures, the Drake Passage still claims lives. Ships still sink, people still die. In 2007, a cruise ship called the Explorer hit ice and sank in Antarctic waters. Fortunately, all passengers and crew were rescued, but it was a stark reminder that even with modern vessels, Antarctica and the surrounding waters are not to be taken lightly. Every year, expedition ships and research vessels face mechanical failures, medical emergencies, and life-threatening situations in these waters. But here's the thing that I fascinating, despite all the danger, despite the seasickness, the cold, the fear, and the very real risk of death, people still make this journey. Scientists travel to Antarctica to study climate change, marine biology, geology, and countless other fields. The research being conducted there is crucial to understanding our planet and how it's changing. Adventurers and tourists pay thousands of dollars for the privilege of experiencing this journey and setting foot on the seventh continent. And then there are the people who work there, the support staff who keep research stations running, the ship crews who make multiple crossings every season. Why do they do it? I think it comes down to something fundamental in human nature. We're drawn to extremes. We want to test ourselves against the harshest environments our planet has to offer. There's something deeply satisfying about facing genuine danger, pushing through it, and coming out the other side. When you finally see the first icebergs, when the Antarctic Peninsula comes into view through the mist, when you step off the ship onto Antarctic soil for the first time, all the suffering of the crossing suddenly feels worth it. You've earned that moment through endurance and courage. Antarctica itself is the reward at the end of this dangerous journey. It's a place of otherworldly beauty, unlike anywhere else on Earth. Mountains of ice rising from the sea, glaciers that glow blue in the sunlight, colonies of penguins numbering in the hundreds of thousands, seals lounging on ice floes, and a silence so profound it's almost overwhelming. The continent is pristine, untouched by human development, a glimpse of what Earth might have been like before we spread across every habitable corner of the globe. To experience that, to witness that kind of raw, unspoiled nature, many people consider the risk of the Drake Passage a price worth paying. The journey to Antarctica forces you to confront your own mortality and insignificance. When you're being tossed around in the middle of the Southern Ocean, when the waves tower over your ship and the wind screams like a living thing, you realize how small you are, how fragile, how dependent on technology and the skill of the crew to keep you alive. It's humbling in a way that few modern experiences can match. We've become so insulated from danger in our daily lives, so comfortable and safe, that we sometimes forget we're still part of nature, still subject to its laws and its power. So what's the takeaway from all this? I think the dangerous journey to Antarctica teaches us several important lessons. First, nature is still the most powerful force on this planet, and we need to respect it. Second, human beings are capable of incredible bravery and endurance when we choose to be. And third, some experiences are worth the risk. The people who make this journey, whether for science, adventure, or personal growth, come back changed. They've faced something real, something dangerous, and they've survived it. That kind of experience stays with you forever. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope I've given you a real sense of what it's like to make this incredible, terrifying, absolutely unforgettable journey to the bottom of the world. Would I do it myself? Absolutely. In a heartbeat. The Drake Passage might be dangerous. It might be uncomfortable, and it might be genuinely frightening at times, but it's also one of the last true adventures left on this planet. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more extreme adventure content, and drop a comment below telling me whether you'd brave the Drake Passage to reach Antarctica. I read every single comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious, stay adventurous, and never stop exploring. I'll see you in the next one.